At this stage, he has to deal with some creatures that are far from being of good quality. Hello, dear friends. Today we will talk about images in meditation. First of all, regardless of nationalities and religions, all people go through the same evolutionary stages. The most important thing is that when a certain stage is reached, absolutely all people who reach this stage face the same images. There may be some minor nuances only due to the traditions of a particular nation, or the images that are present in one or another religion. Buddhists will have more symbolism associated with Buddhism, while Christians will have images that are more closely related to Christianity. When a person rises even higher, in principle he understands that all religions come from the same beginning. So images from one religion and another may be present in the form that is most convenient specifically for that person. The images that appear in a person's meditations are precisely those that could clarify something for that person, so that they would be more understandable to him. Let's start from the very beginning. There are such images that are conventionally called the house of the soul. In the beginning, it may be something like a small earth dwelling, which only speaks of the initial stage of human development, when it is still difficult to speak of self-awareness, as it is just beginning to awaken to some extent. Then, at a certain stage, consciousness is transferred to another house of the soul, where it is already a building that is more adapted for comfortable living. At the next stages, it will be a house similar to what we know from literature and history as a merchant house. And then we see that the person reached the level of a royal palace. After settling into those royal palaces and rising to a higher level, the person finds themselves in a white portico, similar to ones in ancient Greece. A white marble portico, open to all winds. This indicates that a certain simplicity of life has been achieved, and this person is now open to everyone. Their house of the soul is open to everyone. There are also images associated with clothing. When at the earth-dwelling stage, a person is in tennis, in dirty torn clothes. As they rise higher, their clothing becomes better, and then they're dressed in good quality merchant clothing. And even higher, when they reach the royal palace level of the house of the soul, they see themselves in meditation, sitting on the throne in these royal clothes, all embroidered with gold, diamonds, and other precious stones. When the house of the soul becomes a portico, open to all winds, the clothing they wear is a long white shirt, like they wore in ancient Greece, and only the trim speaks to the status that the soul or consciousness has already acquired. These images can give a rough idea of what stage of development a person is going through at a given period of time. Of course, at higher levels, there are other images associated with Buddha, Christ, and other elevated beings, but that comes later. There are many different types of yoga, and those who practice yoga should pay attention to this. When a person is emotionally and sensually highly developed, it is then what is called astral yoga occurs. This is a fairly difficult period of time for a development person, because it is during this stage that they have to deal with creatures that are not of very good quality. When a person meditates or sleeps, they may see some terrible monster or boogeyman approaching them. It is important to understand that a person is not confronting some external being. They are confronting their own inner state, which used to frighten them and which they carried within themselves for a long time. They did not understand how to use this state of being properly and had been afraid of it for a long time. Finally, there comes a time when they are ready to work with this state within themselves and use it more appropriately. Any quality in itself is neutral, and only how well a person applies that quality in certain situations determines whether it is good or bad. Even anger can serve a positive function when used for educational purposes. Therefore, the quality itself is not bad. The most important thing is how appropriately we apply these qualities. When a person encounters such a scary image in meditation or in a dream, they should understand that finally the time has come when they can make proper use of this quality. So there is no need to be afraid of this image, but rather try to accept this creature. By this time, the person's heart center has already become relatively developed, and they already see the light inside themselves, which, like sunlight, can be seen inside them. They are already able to send a beam of light from their heart, and usually such scary images don't appear until the person has the ability to operate with their internal light. And then the person sends a beam of light with love to this scary image. And if the time for transformation has already come, then this creature will turn into something bright and beautiful. And then the person should merge with this beautiful image. And this will indicate that a certain internal synthesis has occurred. If there is not yet a readiness to use this quality properly, then the scary image will simply disappear. But this will only mean that the person is not yet fully ready to accept this quality within themselves. Nevertheless, this image will still appear in future meditations, but the person can already tune themselves better to perceive it. There will definitely be a transformation of this image, and it will turn into a beautiful creature. This must be remembered, but before that, certain stages must be passed in order to learn how to see the inner light. When a person tries to accept others as they are, when they try to build relationships with different people more adequately, professionally, and when they become indifferent to whether they are accepted or understood, it becomes unimportant how others treat them. Then they are already practically ready, or rather their young developing consciousness is ready to merge with a higher level of consciousness. Then during a certain meditation, a person experiences a bright inner sun shining within them. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the moment of integration with their higher self. The higher self begins to play a greater role in the person's life, directing them towards the right path and trying to help and support them in ways that are unacceptable to the human mind. This is not just an inner voice, but rather an influence from the higher self. It is as if the person suddenly has a deep understanding of what is most right and appropriate in the moment. Over time, the person learns to perceive impulses from their higher consciousness. And as they continue to develop, they may encounter different states and images. One significant moment to note is the meeting with the spirit. When a person's young consciousness is ready for this encounter, and the spirit begins to influence them more actively, it feels like they are face to face with a bright, shining being. By touching this being, they feel as though they are touching their very own self, for they are one and the same. However, certain steps must be taken before reaching this state. We wish you to reach this state as quickly as possible and have your own encounter with your spirit. Many people wonder what enlightenment and final liberation mean. Next time, I will focus specifically on these concepts.